So here we'll be going through it in terms of checking what is the framework that we have, which is BDD Cucumber framework. Okay, so let's see how do we use a BDD Cucumber. First, try to understand what is BDD Cucumber framework. Okay, so BDD is also BDD or Cucumber is basically one of a framework that it has given. So it is on top of it. It will also basically use the page object model that we have discussed over here. On top of that, there will be some feature or some flavor that BDD Cucumber has added. So it says that we will be having, it will also work in a page by page manner itself. The first thing it will be having as a page layer. What the same thing we had also seen at the time of page object model, where we define a page layer and test layer. Inside the page layer, we basically initialize the locators and we declare some of the methods, right, in the page layer. However, we have done over here, which is like loginpage.js or dashboardpage.js, right? In the same way, we define it in terms of going for the BDD Cucumber framework. Where is that? This one. Okay, so first we'll have to define a page layer where we'll be initializing the locators and method that we have already done at the time of going through with the page object model. Second, it says that we have to write a test case, which will be again a business logic, which we have to define, like we have to create feature files. Inside the feature file, we'll be writing in a plain English language. So what is meant by that is, we'll be writing a test case. However, we try to write in terms of JavaScript, in terms of manual testing, right? So what is meant by that is, so let's say if you have to validate login page with the valid credential, what do we do? First, we have to launch the URL, and then we'll be saying, like we are on the login page. We have to fill username, we have to fill password, and then we have to click on login button. In case of valid credential, as soon as we fill the username and password, which is valid, and click on login button, it will take us to the home page. Okay, so that is one particular validation we do in terms of testing the login page. So whatever the manual test involves over here, we'll be writing inside a feature file. Okay, and this feature file will consist of the test cases with few of the tags that Playwright that BDD Cucumber has given. And this we will be writing in the same way as we write in terms of the manual test cases. So example, how we'll be writing is, the test case writing will be the same. It is something like, let's say, I am on the login page. I am on the login page. I'm on the login page. Second will be like, let's say, enter a username, valid username and valid password, right? And then click on login button. When I click on login button, we should be validating that I, as a user, I have logged in successfully. Right. So these are like manual steps that we write in terms of manual test cases, like whenever we have to check some kind of scenario. What scenario is this? So the scenario will be check the login is working with valid credential or working as expected with valid credentials. Right. So this will be basically in terms of manual testing. Whenever we go, we basically first write a scenario and then we go for writing the test step. So this is a scenario where we say like check the login is working as expected or not. And this will be steps. So this will be step number 1. Then the second will be for the step number 2 and third will be the step number 3. So this will be steps, right? This is how we write in terms of manual testing. And in the same way, we have to write inside the feature file. So this feature file will consist of all the test cases using few of the keywords that BDD has given. We have to declare a scenario name as we are trying to declare over here, which is check the login is working expected with valid credential or not. That will be writing with a keyword known as scenario. Okay, so this scenario comes from the BDD Cucumber framework. So BDD Cucumber has given few of the keyword, which will be a feature, which will be used for writing the test soup name. Second will be a scenario. It just to provide the scenario name. Scenario name as we have given here. Let's say check the login is working as expected with valid credential or not. And when and there will be different steps that we have. This step is basically if we just see over here, which says that I am on the login page, which basically says that this is a precondition to check for the login test, right? Validation with valid credential. What is meant by precondition? That means in terms of manual testing as well, we first have to be on the login page to validate whether the login is working or not. So that is a precondition. Precondition is launch the browser and navigate or open the website, right? That will be precondition first to launch the browser and open the URL. Not launch the URL will be a precondition. So that's where we are saying a precondition that that is I am on the login page. First, we have to be on the login page to validate the login scenario. Again, we have to be on the dashboard page to validate the dashboard scenarios and so on, right? So here we say that this is a precondition. So whenever we have to write a precondition, they have given a keyword known as given. Using a given keyword, we can say here it as given I am on the login page. Okay, so this comes under whatever the precondition that we have to write for a test case, right? Whatever the precondition that we have to write for a test case, that will go by using a keyword known as given. Okay, and now what is this? I enter a username and password and then click on login button, right? So what is this? This is basically an action that we are trying to perform. We are trying to perform an action to enter a username, enter a password, and click on login button. Okay, so this is known as an action performing on an element. So to perform an action, we basically have this Cucumber has given a keyword known as when. Okay, so whenever we have to perform any kind of action, that will go by using a when keyword. So we can say here it as when. Given I am on the login page, when I do this action, after that, what we have to do? We have to basically validate whether we have successfully logged in or not. That means whether we are on the home page or not. If we are on the home page, that means we have logged in successfully. If it is throwing an error, that means we did not complete the login properly, right? So this will be a validation. That means assertion, whether we are successfully logged in or not. So to write a validation or assertion, we have a then, which is known as expected result. That means a validation part. So whenever we have to write a step for validation, that will go by using a keyword then. So if we see this carefully now, it says that given I am on the login page, that means this is a precondition. When I perform some kind of action, when I enter a username and password, and again click on login button, then I have logged in successfully. That means we are trying to validate whether user have been successfully logged in or not. Okay. So the keyword that given we'll be using for precondition, when we'll be using for whatever the action that we have to perform, either click on an element, fill element, getting the text value from an element, and so on. And then is to just validate or write the assertion part. Okay. Any question till now?
No problem.
Okay. Okay. So these are the three keywords. These are basically four keywords to write the test cases. Feature is to just provide the name of the suite file. And then there is another keyword, which nowadays we do not use, which is like known as and. If we have to append, like if you have to write multiple lines, multiple steps for doing some kind of actions, then we can write and as well. This and we can write with given, when, and then. So as example, if you see here, in terms of this one, we say it as when I enter a username and password and I click on login button. You can also provide in this way. Then I have logged in successfully and I should be on the home page. We can use and for any of the keywords that it has given. Additional precondition by action or validation. If we have to go for like writing a multiple lines for actions or validations or for preconditions, we can use and and keyword as well. Then there is one more keyword known as, but we do not use nowadays. So then there is another keyword known as scenario hotline. Okay. So this scenario is to declare, basically write a test cases, write a test case. That means a single test case. Whenever we have to go for data-driven testing, for the data-driven testing, we'll be using scenario outline. That means, let's say if you have to perform a login with multiple username and password, at that point of time, we basically cannot use scenario. Scenario will be to check with one single data. Scenario outline is to do a data-driven testing where we can use with multiple data. And whenever we declare a scenario outline, we have to provide the data in terms of examples. We'll see that in our sessions as well. So it says that provide the data for the scenario outline. Whatever we want to do the data-driven kind of, we can use, we can declare using a scenario outline, and the data part will be going inside an examples. Okay, so this is a feature file that we have to write in terms of BDD Cucumber. That is what the important things in terms of BDD Cucumber we have. Okay, this will be a feature file. And we know that this is just a plain English language. Given I am on the login page, when I enter this kind of things, then it happens something, which is like I logged in successfully or I am on the home page. Okay, these are in plain English language. So how will our code or how will our page object or the code or the test case that we write will be able to understand? So we basically have to map this, all the test case that we write in a plain English language. We also have to map that with the code so that it will be able to understand that there is a line that we have written or sentence that we have written, which is known as I am on the page. Okay. So to map that, we have to create step definitions. What is meant by step definition is whatever we have created in plain English language. For all these steps, we'll be creating a method inside step definition, and the method name will be exactly similar to whatever we have defined it over here in terms of writing the test cases. Okay. So these are the three steps that we perform, that we basically perform mandatorily in terms of BDD Cucumber. One is we have to create a page layer as we have created in the page object model. On top of that, we have to write a feature file where we'll be writing the test cases in terms of plain English language. This is also known as Gherkin language. The plain English language that we see using a given, when, and then keyword that is also known as Gherkin language. Okay. And to map the test cases or the steps that we write inside a feature file, to map that in terms of coding, we have to create a step definition file as well. Okay. So these are the 3 steps that we have in terms of BDD Cucumber. Now, if you can see, there is a slight difference between BDD Cucumber and page object model. In terms of page object model, we basically have to create a page layer where we'll be doing the same thing, which is initialize the locators and method. And then there will be a test layer where we'll be writing the test cases. We do not have to go for feature file. We again do not have to map that feature file with the step definition and so on, right? These are the 2 additional steps that we have in terms of BDD Cucumber, feature file and step definition. And it also uses the same page object model pattern, which is it also creates a page layer. For each pages, we'll have to create one particular feature file and we have to create one particular step definition. So if you think about in terms of maintenance and all, BDD Cucumber will be overwhelming, where we have to maintain, apart from page layer, we also have to maintain a feature file. We also have to maintain a step definition. Whereas in terms of page object model, we have to just maintain a page layer and then test cases will be there. That is why to maintain other 2 steps, which is feature file and step definition, most of the organization and most of the people are just following page object model without going for BDD Cucumber framework. The advantage in terms of BDD Cucumber framework is only the thing that we will be writing a test case in plain English language so that even a non-technical person can be easily understand what kind of test case that we are trying to perform, but that we are trying to automate. Okay, there is no other advantage in terms of BDD Cucumber. So did you, any question till now in terms of the BDD, understanding the BDD Cucumber?
No problem.
Okay. Now, there is one more difference, like whenever we work with Playwright using a BDD Cucumber, the Playwright does not automatically support BDD Cucumber. So first step will be how how do we have to generate the BDD Cucumber? Will be the first step to install the Cucumber. Install Cucumber jar or plugin. Okay, so first step will be to install the Cucumber because Playwright does not automatically support Cucumber. Playwright is similar to Cucumber, where Cucumber says that we can write a test case and we can assert the value. Playwright always write the test case by using their own method, which is like test function. And it also have an assertion, which is using a expect function. Okay. So in terms of Playwright, we can directly use without going for BDD Cucumber or JUnit or TestNG. Playwright automatically supports everything. If we want to go for BDD Cucumber, then we have to first install the Cucumber and then we can work on writing the other things. So first step will be to install the Cucumber. Second step will be we can install by using a command line that we'll just see in a couple of minutes. But whenever you go for page object model, we do not have to install anything. Second step will be step 2 to write a page layer. Okay, this we have already covered. In page object model. Okay, so in the page object model also we create the page layer, and in terms of page object model, we directly write after creating a page layer, we directly write the test cases. Whereas in terms of BDD Cucumber, we have to create a feature file with extension as .feature. Okay, this will be creating as a third step, and fourth step will be to create a step definition. This is where we will basically write the code to execute the steps. Okay, so these are the 4 steps involved in creating or generating BDD Cucumber framework. Okay, so let's start one by one by using the steps that we have mentioned. First is install the Cucumber. So to install the Cucumber, we can go to we can basically go to Cucumber. We can search like Cucumber JS. Because why are we searching Cucumber JS? It's just because Cucumber, we are trying to work with JavaScript. So we are just trying to search with uh, Cucumber JS. Now you can go to a documentation part first. It says that whenever we have to work with JS, we have to install it. So we have to install with a command which is npm install @cucumber/cucumber. So we can directly go here, or we can also know, like, whenever we have to install anything, we in terms of JavaScript, we basically use npm install, and then that you can provide in terms of Cucumber @cucumber/cucumber, or in terms of if you have to install Playwright, then we can directly say npm install Playwright. Okay, so let's copy this and try to install our Cucumber in terms of the Playwright. Okay, so the first step is to install Cucumber. I'll just copy whatever copied, I'm just trying to paste, which is npm install @cucumber. Whenever we say like --save -dev, it will save in the global like it will be available as a globally inside the framework or project. Okay, so as soon as we enter it, like we click on enter, it will install Cucumber in probably in the next 10 seconds. So everything will be automatically installed, whatever we require. You can see it is saying added 164 packages and so on. Now, how do I know whether it has really added or not? So for that, you can go to a node modules, which we know that it will have all the jars that we have installed till now. And inside that, we can see there is a folder known as @cucumber. And inside that, there is a Cucumber available. And inside this, if you go, there is a bin folder, and there is a Cucumber-js file. This file, Cucumber-js, is working as a test runner for Playwright Cucumber framework. This file is basically running as working as a test runner file for running the test cases written in BDD Cucumber framework using a Playwright. Okay. But in terms of Playwright, whenever we work with page object model, in terms of Playwright, we know that playwright.config.js is a test runner file for running the Playwright test cases. We are trying to get the help of BDD Cucumber framework using Playwright. So as we discussed over here, that Playwright is not automatically supporting Cucumber framework. At that point of time, whenever we go for writing the test case using BDD Cucumber framework, this playwright.config.js will not be a valid one. That means whatever we declared inside this will not be applicable for BDD Cucumber framework. Cucumber will have another file which is known as cucumber-js is for the test runner. That means another disadvantage that we have to go for basically for going for Playwright using BDD Cucumber is this Playwright config will not at all work in terms of BDD Cucumber framework. That means whatever we declared over here, which is like fully parallel, will not be applicable for BDD Cucumber framework. Whatever we make it over here as a timeout will not be working in terms of BDD Cucumber framework. Playwright default timeout of 30 seconds will not work for BDD Cucumber framework, and so on. So BDD Cucumber framework, that means Cucumber framework is having a default timeout of 5 seconds. This Playwright default timeout will not be applicable in terms of BDD Cucumber. Okay. Now we also define something which is known as a browser, that will also not be applicable in terms of BDD Cucumber. So we have to first we have to basically take care of that by writing the code in terms of launching the browser, launching the URL, and so on. Okay.
Yeah,
Now
bro.
first step, that is why the page object model along with the Playwright is most popular in the market. So first thing is install the Cucumber that we have installed. Second is to create a page layer that we have already done at the time of creating a page object, which is login page and dashboard page. So we do not have to do it again and again. Now third step is to create a feature file. So to create a feature file, let's create another folder. So Playwright has given also some of our some of our steps that we can follow to write a feature file, to write a step definition and hooks later on when we discuss in the next session. So it says that we have to create a features folder, and inside this feature folders, we can declare feature file, and we also can create a folder which will be a step definition. Either we can create inside a files, it's feature folder itself, or we can create a separate folder to store all the definitions. And whenever we have to use a hook, what is meant by hook in terms of Playwright also, we have gone through with hooks, which says that annotations, where do we have that? Okay, in terms of this, web part two. So these are like hooks, right? Before all, before each, and after all. These are hooks. Hooks is basically a predefined method which will do some set of actions. So in terms of BDD as well, we have some kind of hooks, which is before and after. Before step, after and after step. So whenever we have to write the hooks, that will go inside a folder known as support. They have given some kind of nomenclature that how do we define. So whenever we define it with, like, let's say features folder or support folder, it will automatically pick those hooks and will run for the BDD Cucumber. So by just going through with this, just create a folder. We'll try to create a folder over here. We know that how do we create a folder. So you can come to the root of the project and then click on new folder. And here we can mention it as a features. Inside this, we'll create our first file, which will be a feature file. We know that we have to provide it with, let's say, login.feature. We have to provide it with an extension known as feature. Okay. So now what we are trying to do, we are trying to follow the third step. Page layer we have already created. So we are going for the third step where we'll be creating some feature files. Now you might be saying that there is an icon it is displaying for Cucumber. How does it display is to work with like feature file and identify, highlight each and every keywords that we use. So to get that particular effect, we have to go to extension and then search it over here as Cucumber. It will display some of the options where you can go for given, when, then icon will be available and you can install this. So as soon as you install this, it will basically highlight whenever we write any kind of keywords available in terms of Cucumber, which is given, when, then kind of features, scenario outline will be highlighted in different color. So this is a plugin which is known as Cucumber Gherkin Full Support. You can install it. I've already installed. If you want to install, you can install it there. And then it will work in this way. So it will basically highlight some of the things, whatever we'll be writing in terms of feature. So we have also discussed like how do we write the feature files. So in terms of writing the feature files, we know that we have to use some predefined set of keywords. So to start writing the feature files, we have to start with a feature which will basically give us, allow us to write the like suite file name or the complete test suite for one particular class or one particular page. So we have to start it with feature, and it will ask you to define a feature name. So we can just say it as, let's say, login page test. This is just we have given as a suite file name for login page. Now it also allow you to describe some kind of description if you want to define. It is again optional, but if you want to define that, you can define it out over here. Example, this test suite will ensure example or will consist of the test cases related to login page. Okay, this is just a definition we have given for this particular file, this particular feature file. Okay. And now we know that whenever we have to write a test case without data driven, we have to start it with a scenario keyword. Okay. Scenario keyword, and then you have to provide a scenario name. So here we have defined a scenario which is saying that check the login is working as expected with valid credential or not. That we can define it over here as a name. So you see it is highlighting in different color. Why it is highlighting in different color is this is a predefined keyword. This is a predefined keyword, and value we are trying to provide some other value. So that is in the different color. This is only happening because we have installed a plugin for Cucumber, Gherkin, like full support Cucumber, which will be able to identify it automatically. Okay. Now we have just given a scenario, so we can now start writing the test cases where we know that whenever we have to provide the precondition, for precondition, we have to start it with given, then write the precondition. What is this precondition says that I am on the login page. Then when I enter a valid username and password, so we have also described the same thing over here. When I enter a valid username and password, so we can provide it as when I enter user name as what kind of username that we have to provide. We know that we have used some username and password. So let's take it as, we can also define it over here, or we can also take it from any of the file, that is either JSON or Excel. So I can say like when I enter username as this, which is some kind of string, and password as password that I use for this. When I enter this, then or we can also define and I click on login button. Then what happened? Then basically it says that I should be able to see the dashboard page. Okay. So this is one of a test case where we are trying to validate it with the valid credential scenario. Okay. So this says that given I am on the login page, when I enter email as this and password as this, and I click on login button, then I should see a dashboard page is appearing. Okay, this is first test case. Now, this was the third step in terms of creating a feature file. Now, what is the fourth step? The fourth step, we have to create a step definition, which will match the feature file that we have created. The step that we have created, all these steps will be mapped with the step definition. So let's try to create another step definition inside, let's say we'll create it inside the feature file itself, or you can create outside of the features folder as well. So let's create a step definition folder. So created a step definition folder, and inside this we'll create a file which will be a JavaScript file. We'll say it as, let's say, login page step definition .js. Okay. So now what we are trying to do is whatever we have written the test case using feature file, that file will be mapped over here. Okay. So we have to basically write however we have written over here. So the method will be like given will be a method. I am on the login page. When again will be a method and it will have a title as this particular things. For and method will be a title as I click on login button and so on. Okay, so there are two ways how we can declare the how we can basically automatically define the test step is. One is we have one plugin which is known as step definition generator, I believe step definition, or you can just search it out, generate step definition, right? As soon as you type it out, generate step definition, there will be one plugin available which is known as Cucumber Step Definition Generator. Okay, Cucumber Step Definition Generator. You can install this, and when you install this, once it is successful, as soon as you click on install, it will be installed within a second. And then after the installation, when you go to your login or a feature file, wherever you have written the feature file with whatever the name, if you go to on the top right top corner, you will see something known as a generate step definition to a file. If you click on this, it will create a new file, new step definition file. It will create a new step definition file in TypeScript manner. Okay. If you click on this one, this will generate a feature file and will automatically copy everything. So if you, let's say, if you click on this now, I've just clicked on this. So it is saying that step definition have been copied to the clipboard. Now, if you go inside this, you can directly copy paste, like paste the value. So it has been basically what it is saying that it has generated the step definition for the feature files that we have written. This is one way where it will generate the feature files, generate the step definition for the features that we have written. And we have to get it from the Cucumber that we have installed. So we can say like @Cucumber and Cucumber. I'll talk about this in just next couple of minutes. But now you can see like it is generating in terms of TypeScript, where it is saying that argument 0 of a type string and argument 1 of type string. So we can change it out however we want in terms of our scripting. I'll tell you why it is displaying in that way. Now, second way is if you try to run the code now, we know that the test case will get failed as it will not be able to file. It will not be able to, let me remove it off. It will not be able to find any step definition for these particular test step. So the test case will fail. Now we know that Cucumber-JS is a test runner for BDD Cucumber framework. So to run, we have to provide it as npx Cucumber-JS to run the Cucumber test cases. As soon as you run this, it will fail because step definition is not available. It says that step definition are not available, and it will also generate the step definition for us. You see this one? This is generating. It is saying that given I am on the login page, the following steps have not been generated. That means implement this with the following snippet. You can again directly copy paste this value as well and go inside the step definition and copy paste over there. So this is second way where we can automatically generate the step definition without like, without, we do not have to basically, we do not have to remember what we have to use in terms of using a step definition and so on. Basically, how do we generate the step definition and so on. So we can directly use this with. You can automatically, that means generate the step definition. After creating a framework, we can directly use you can run the test case and it will automatically generate if the step definition have not been generated. Now, earlier I said that when I was trying to discuss and keyword and but keyword, as I said that nowadays we do not use and keyword. That means in the modern BDD programmer, we do not use and keyword. Whenever we use and, the previous keyword that we have defined will automatically be accepted. So in terms of this, if you see, we have defined it with and. We are saying that and I click on login button. So the step definition it is generating as when I click on login button. Okay, so it is considering the previous keyword as well. So now BDD Cucumber says that we do not have to use a keyword and but. You can use multiple times when, then, given itself. Okay, any question till now?
So Praveen, suppose after logging page, if you want to perform some other operations, so that when then keyword what we have written, that for that again we have to write one more file, different file.
So after see, there will be, in terms of login itself, there will be a couple of test cases, right? So
Correct.
to define the next test case, we can directly start it with writing the scenario.
Same.
So one
Yeah. Okay.
in the same file, one scenario will be considered as one test case.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, one feature is considered as one suite file.
Okay.
Now whenever we have to work with dashboard page, we can create another feature file with a dashboard.
Okay.
Okay, one scenario will be considered as one particular test case.
So in one file, multiple test cases we can write in this Jerkin language. Okay.
We can write n number of test cases.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now this is the step definition for that particular feature file that we have written just now. Okay. Now, here, what is this given? Given is a keyword that happened given by the given when, and then is a keyword that happened given by the Cucumber. So we have to also import that. So we can directly use import given, comma one, comma then. And as soon as we select one particular things, it will say that where are we trying to import it from. Okay. So it will also take you to the, if you just want to go inside the test runner file, whatever the things that we require in terms of the BDD Cucumber, it has declared inside index.d.ts is a file where from here we are trying to import all the values given, when, and then. Okay. Now, these, if you try to check this, it is able to understand that where it is taking given from. But if you just comment it out, we'll see that it might not be able to identify it. It's saying just any. Again, uncomment this, and then we'll be able to see that it is able to identify. Now we have to write the code inside this given, when, and then whatever we have to write the code. Okay, so this is the fourth step where we have to define the test case, define the test step definition. And the fifth will be again to run the test case. To run the test case, we have to use, to run all the test case, we have to use npx cucumber-js. If you want to run specific test case, then we can use npx cucumber-js and then give the file path. Okay, now let's see, we will complete this step definition code. So first is, it is saying that given I am on the login page. So we have to first also define, first we have, as we know that this Playwright config.js will not be applicable for Cucumber. So we have basically defined one test case at the time of writing page object model. So what did we write in terms of page object model is, we have written a test case where we are getting some kind of value from the page page folder, which is for inside the page object from the login page. So this is a page layer for BDD Cucumber as well. Now first we have to import this file inside the step definition, because we'll be using the method that we have defined inside the page layer. Okay, so we also have to import. So to import this, we can directly say login page. Whatever the class name that we have defined, the same class name we have to provide it over here at the time of importing. And then we can say require, from where we have to provide the steps. So now see, step definition, we are trying to write inside a folder, which is step definition. And this step definition is also available inside another folder known as feature. So we have to first come out of this folder and again come out of this folder. And then we can search where is our imported file is located. So whenever you are inside one particular folder, to come out of that, you have to give 2 dot and 1 slash from coming out from one particular folder. Here, if you see, we are inside step definition folder, and this step definition folder is inside a features folder. So we have to declare it with 2 times. If you are inside another folder, then you have to declare with three times 2 dot and slash. And from here, what it said is first 2 dots and slash, it's saying that we came out of step definition file. Second is it is saying that we came out of feature file. So we are now in the root folder of this particular project. And now we have to basically go to login page. So we can directly say page objects slash login page. Okay, if you hover on this, it will say you the exact path that it is having. Okay, so what did we do is we have just imported login page as well. We can also import assertion part. So for assertion, writing the assertion, we import expect from Playwright test module. We know that this we know already, right? We have used it many times. So expect from Playwright modules, Playwright test modules. Now, this is available as a function inside a Playwright test module. So we are defining inside a curly braces. Now, as this playwright.config.js will not be applicable for BDD Cucumber, so we also have to create a browser. That means launch a browser or create browser context and new page by self. It is similar to whenever we use a browser fixture. Right? At the time of using the browser fixture, how do we create it? We basically create the test case. Whenever we use a browser fixture, we have to first create an instance, and then we have to create a new page inside the browser. So that is what we did over here, which is browser.new context. And then we created a page inside a browser. But what browser we have to use, that information we have given inside the test runner file for the Playwright. Now, in terms of BDD Cucumber, we have to define in the test case itself. So for that, we'll be importing another class, which is known as a Playwright from the Playwright test module itself. So why are we trying to import this Playwright? So that we will be able to create we'll basically be able to launch the browser, whatever the browser that we want to use, and then create the page inside the browser. Now we'll see how do we do that. So inside this is our precondition where we'll be writing, launching the browser as well as creating the browser as well as launching the URL. So let's say, how do we do that? By using a Playwright keyword, we can select the different browsers available over here. So whenever we use, this is a class, Playwright class is having a different browser. Whatever the browser that we want to select, let's say Chromium. If you want to select Firefox, you can use Firefox. If you want to select Safari, then you can use WebKit as well. Okay, so let's try to use a Chromium browser. And then we have a method known as launch, which will launch the URL. It returns the browser instance. That means it will first create a browser for basically launching the Chromium browser. We have selected over here as a Chromium. And this will return us a browser context. So we can store it inside, let's say, a particular variable which we are trying to define it as a browser. Okay. And inside, by using now this browser, it had just launched the page. It had just basically launched the browser, right? Now using this browser, we have to create a context as we have done in this way, which is const context equals to new browser and declare a new page. So you can directly copy. I'm just trying to copy this from there. We know that. Why do we do this context? Like new context and new page creation. Okay, till now we are just trying to use the same things that we have used earlier. Now if you see here, in this part, we have declared a context and a page which is available inside the given method, right? That means the scope of this context and scope of this page will be limited to the given method, isn't it? Because this will be considered as a local variable for this particular function. Okay, so Cucumber says that there is one world constructor. There is one world constructor available inside a Cucumber. So if you go to a Cucumber.js GitHub file, to go there, we just have to search Cucumber.js, and you'll see one thing known as Cucumber for JavaScript inside of GitHub. We can go inside this. This has also given the complete step. If you go to the README file, it has given how do we install the Cucumber, how do we basically write page classes, like which we have discussed in terms of page layer, how do we write the feature file, how do we write the step definition, and how do we run the test cases. And also here in terms of documentation, it has one thing known as world. It has different things like how do we define the timeouts. So if you see in terms of defining the timeouts, we can directly use set default timeout for each and every test cases, basically inside a file globally. So example, we can define that in a before method, which will be applicable for all the test cases. As we define it in terms of the playwright.config.js, so we can define it. So it says that by default, asynchronous hooks and step timeout will be 5 milliseconds. If you want to modify globally, then you can directly set it over here. So where do we have to set this particular thing? Is inside this particular file, we can directly set default timeout. Okay, for now, let it be like this. We can also define it inside a before whenever we try to understand what is the hooks available. There also we can define it as timeout colon 60 seconds, which will be applicable. So in the same way, we have one world constructor available. So world constructor says that it is an isolated scope for each scenario exposed to the steps and most hooks as this keyword. So this world constructor is available as a this keyword. What is the use of it? It allows you to set variable in one step and recall them in later step. All variables set this way are discarded when the scenario concludes. What it is saying is, so it is saying that one particular test case that we have defined using a scenario, this is one world. And now inside this world, I am free to move either in this step or in this step or in this step or in this step. Okay, so it is saying that whenever we declare a variable using a this keyword in any of the steps, using a this keyword, whenever we set a variable in any of the step, that variable will be automatically applicable for all the other steps as well. So what is meant by that is, if you see here, this is a local variable, which is context and page. Now it is saying that if we define this by using this dot page. Now this page variable we can use inside the other methods of the same test cases. Now, if you define the other test cases using scenario inside that, that will not be applicable. Again, inside that we have to declare using this keyword. Okay, so it is saying that if you want to inside the steps of the same test case, if you want to use one particular variable, then inside any of the function, you can declare the variable using this keyword. And then we are good to use this variable, which is a local variable available inside given, but we are still able to use this page variable inside any of the steps. That means any of the methods. Okay. Any question for this world constructor?
No, Praveen.
Okay. So whenever we use this variable, so whenever we use this keyword to define a variable, this will be available to use inside all the methods. That means all the steps of the same test case. Let's say you are trying to define another test case, which is saying that given let's say it's saying I am in the sky, right? This is basically not a part of the same test case that we are trying to define. Okay, so we will not be able to use this inside over here. Like if you want to use this dot page, it will not be applicable inside this particular method. Okay, so it is saying that whenever we have to use a constructor, which is world constructor, inside any of the step, if you declare a variable using this keyword, then that variable will be applicable for each and every test case of the same, each and every steps of the same test cases. Okay. Apart from that, you will not be able to, as soon as it ends, as soon as one test case ends, like the steps of the test case completed, the world constructor will be discarded from that. So it says that all variables set this way are discarded when the scenario concludes. Okay. Example, it is saying that we have a two-step, which is given, my color is this, and then my color should be something. So it is saying that it has declared a variable, which is color by using this keyword, and the same variable it is also trying to use inside the another step of the same test case. Okay. So this is what basically use of the world constructor. So what we can do is we can directly define using this keyword for any of the variable. Now what did we do is we have just defined using this keyword for creating a page. Now using this now what we have to do is here we have launched the browser, created a context and created a new page. In next 5 minutes, we'll complete the session. Now we have to create an object for the login page, right? So we can create an object over here. So how do we create an object? We basically say like const object name, which is with object identifier, and then we say like new class name, and then whatever it takes inside the parameter as a constructor. So we are again doing the same thing, which is const. So it says that it will be only applicable inside the given method. So to make it as a global, which is which will be accessible to the other test step, we can make it as this dot login page. And what this page will consider as a constructor is a page. So this page, whatever we have defined it over here, we can provide it as a constructor, as a parameter for creating an object. Okay. We also have to use await keywords on each and every steps. Now what we have to do is we have to basically launch the URL. So using this variable that we have defined, which is this dot page login, we can directly call launch URL. Launch URL is a method available inside this, which is taking a URL. That URL we can define it over here. So what is the URL that we have is the URL, we can take it from the login page test. So URL is this. We can also define in this way inside the step definition. So you can directly take it as a URL over. Okay. So this is for basically launching the URL, whatever we have written inside this one, which says that check login with valid credential. Now, to fill the username and password, we have to call a valid login method, which is available inside login page, right? So to call this, we have to go inside this particular method, which is when I enter username add string and password add string. What is this? Whenever we declare any value inside a keyword, inside a step using a string, which is double quote, it will be considered in the step definition as a string. That means whatever the value that we pass over here, or we take it from the file, different file, whatever the value we pass over here, this will come and sit inside the parameter of the function. Okay. And this parameter we can basically utilize in our test case. So we'll just see in next 1 minute of time. So what is the next step? Next step is to call this particular valid login method. Valid login method is available inside a login page, which is this one. Valid login method we have to call from page layer. So to call that, we have to use this dot page. Valid login method, we basically have to not disturb it, but using the object that we have created. So this dot page login dot, what is the method name? It is saying valid login, right? We have to also give await over here. So await this dot page login. What is this page login? The global variable that we have defined over here. Using that, we can say a valid login, and this valid login inside the login page accept the two parameter, which is username and password. So whatever the username that we are trying to fill over here, at the time of calling the login page, at the time of running the test case, it will call the particular step definition. And whatever the value we have defined inside the function parameter, like we can define it as username and password. So whatever the value that we have defined inside the parameter, this username, whatever we defined over here, will accept as this particular username. Password, whatever we have defined here, will accept as this password. So you can directly press it, use as a parameter for this particular method. Okay. And then it is saying that, so inside the login, we see it is also clicking on the login button. So we basically do not require the next step, which is I click on login. Let's remove it from here. We can remove from the step definition as well, because inside the valid login itself, we are able to click on the login page, login button as well. Now, the last one is to validate whether we have successfully, we are on the login page or not, the home page or not, right? So for that, we have to write an assertion. Okay, then will be for validation. So we can say that await user expect function to assert the value. You know that we use expect function to assert the value. And inside this login page, we have defined one particular identifier, which is known as home page identifier. So we can say that this dot page, this dot page will be using for writing the locator. So we can say that the object that we have defined, which is this dot page login dot, whenever we have to call a locator or a variable inside from the login page or the page classes, we have to just define it with object that we have created and then use the variable that we want to call. Okay, so here it is home page identifier, and then we can say that to be visible. Okay, if it is visible, that means we are successfully logged in into the application. Okay, so this is how we generate the BDD Cucumber framework. This is for one particular test case where we are trying to check whether the login page is success or not, whether the login is success with this username and this password. Okay, so this was the fourth step. Now, if you see the fifth step is to run the test case. So to run the test case, we can use npx cucumber JS. Now let's see, whenever we try to run the test case, we have to give npx cucumber -js. If everything goes well over here, then it will launch the browser, create the URL, and so on. But here it is saying that cannot use import statement outside of a module. So, okay, this will be applicable in terms of the TypeScript. So we can directly use like this, equals to require. In the same way, however, we import for expect or test in the other files that we have seen in at the time of Playwright JavaScript. So now if everything goes well, it will launch the URL, it will create the browser, will launch the URL, and then it will try to fill everything. So it says that failure. Why it is fail? Why there is a failure? It is saying that given I am on the login page, the function timed out. So as I earlier said, for each and every step, there will be a timeout of 5 seconds. Okay. So for each and every steps, there will be a timeout of 5 seconds. If within 5 seconds, it is not launching the URL or not performing the action, then it will fail the test case. So for that, we can, one thing is that we can use set timeout, set default timeout. And here we can mention it with 60, let's say into 1000. That means we are trying to say that we are trying to define it as a 60 seconds for each and every steps. So that is what the difficulty that we have in terms of Cucumber. The Playwright basic default timeout will not work. We basically have to define it. So now if you see if it is okay, so it basically launched in a headless mode. So what we can do is we can directly say inside wherever we have created a Chrome browser, we can say it over here inside the launch method. We can say that headless as false. Okay. Now again, you see like inside Playwright, we have defined inside playwright.config.js. Here we have to define it inside the launch method. Now again, you might be saying that the test case get stuck at every time whenever we run, even after executing the test case. So for that, we have to define at the end ---- exit. Okay, so after completion of the test case, this will terminate the execution. So now if you see, we have defined it as false. It will launch, it has failed, and it has been successfully completed the test case as well. Okay, so this is all about how do we create the Cucumber framework in terms of using the Playwright. In the next session, we'll discuss how do we we'll discuss few of the test case we'll create for dashboard page as well. For feature file, we'll create a step definition and we'll try to run few of the test case, whatever we have done in terms of page object model. And we'll also see how the hooks works in terms of before and after steps. Okay, so that is it in terms of today's session. And then we'll again continue in the next session.